Team Pascoe. Welcome to this new session of CPTED Talk.
Well, and it's very good to be here and nice to see you again, Mecca.
Yeah, I'm very happy to see you again, Tim. And for the audience, I will read your biography because you have an extensive biography. So I will try to do a summary.
Very short one.
Dr. Tim Pascoe, Regional ICA Director for the IDOCA United Kingdom chapter. Dr. Tim Pascoe has been a community safety researcher for over 25 years, carrying out qualitative and quantitative research and evaluation investigating crime prevention and crime reduction issues and instigating community interventions and solutions. He has an international reputation in the area of designing and managing out crime. His work, which has been carried out with a number of bodies, including community groups of all types, police forces, local authorities, government departments, business, etc., has resulted in a publication record, which has added to the understanding of community safety problems and solutions. He regularly chairs and presents at conferences and seminars worldwide. He also has done innovative CPTED practice in the UK and further afield. This experience ranges from looking inwards and working with young people's minds to engage with other ICA partners, to refine community engagement models, to look at transport, and finally, other aspects like terrorist risk, among other practices. So thank you so much for accepting to be here, Tim, and it's an honor for us to have you here.
It's a privilege to be invited.
Thank you, Tim. I just want to start the interview asking you a very simple question. How did you start in CPTED?
Well, I started in CPTED rather a long time ago now. I started my life in a very different kind of career. I was a merchant navy officer, and in my early 20s, I decided that I was going to have a change of career. I did my first degree in environmental science, and then I joined the building research establishment called BRE. That was a government research establishment at the time, and they looked into how buildings were built, for everything from foundations to bricks to how buildings influence people's behaviour. And at that time, there was lots of work in UK going along. People like Ron Clark at the Home Office and a very young Paul Ekblom then were looking at situational crime prevention. And we had a very famous professor at that time called Professor Alice Coleman, who was doing very interesting work called Utopia in the Skies, looking at all these skyscrapers. All very exciting stuff, all showing that buildings could influence behaviour. So we started looking at BRE, how that could work in the crime and security field. And that's where I really started off there. Since then, I've been working for universities, and in the early 90s, I started my own organisation, a social enterprise that looks into CPTED issues and youth and community issues. So that's where I've come from. My interaction with CPTED and the ICA and that type of thing, we were doing this type of work, and in the UK in the early 90s, there was a great scheme that was being promoted by the police called Secured by Design, which basically said if the designers and the architects and the town planners took on security features and police and academics advice in how they designed and built buildings, then they would get a police award for their new housing. So that was really trying to promote it.
Very interesting, very interesting. And when did you start the IDOCA chapter? Because one issue is your background, that is holistic and very interesting. I didn't know that you came from other disciplines, so it's very interesting. But when did you figure out to start IDOCA chapter?
We started the UK Design Out Crime Association because we had all this UK interest in this type of thing. And we started running parallels. So we weren't as aware of, say, some of the North American work or Australasia work. We were operating in the UK with our UK Home Office and some European contacts. So we started the Design Out Crime Association, which was to share best practice in the kind of CPTED world. And we started reaching out to our friends in Europe. We had some conferences in Barcelona, which was hosted by the Police Training College for the Barcelona Police. So that was back in the early 90s. We also started and did some European projects where we had other European partners all around crime opportunity profiling in streets, it was called. So we had Germany, we had Greece, we had Spain, and we had the Netherlands, and that's where we met Mr. Paul von Sumeren. So another very famous ICA director and of very long lineage, shall we say. So we did some European projects that were related to CPTED in the early 90s. And we also started working on European standards. Yeah. So bike mark standards, that happened in the 90s, and that's where we met some other ICA people like Bo Grundland. So he's been around with us for quite a long period. And it's in
that sounds great. Sounds great. And just to remark for the audience, Tim, can you explain better what is an CPTED standard, for example?
It's in Europe, well, we have kite mark standards, which says everything buildings to services, if they meet certain set standards or tests that can be replicated and are approved by experts, then they can get awarded that certificate or that label or that brand. Very clear scheme. It's a clear scheme, very much like the ICA are now doing an accreditation scheme. So very similar in that kind of approach. So back then we were doing that. Then I think we had a call from a little guy called Barry Davidson. And he said he was running this conference and wanted to form an international CPTED association. And we went over to Calgary, I think it was 96, something like that. We met Barry and some other kind of people like Greg were there. And from then on, we were joined up from across the world into the ICA and its launch. We met other people, and certainly in the early days, in the UK, there were people like John Strutton, who's now the risk director for Transport for London in the UK. But back then, he was just starting off. We had Professor Lorraine Gammon, who again, still the co-chair of the UK Design Out Crime Association. People like Terry Cox. So any of our old CA members will remember some of these names. And then after our first conference there, we were other people that were past ICA directors that was certainly leading, like Art Hushan, for example, in the USA. Since then, we've been with the ICA since its start, and we're still going strong. And we're now being led by an even better up-and-coming, innovative president.
Who is that president?
I couldn't possibly imagine. She's a doctor, I know. Soon to be a professor, I have no doubt.
Thank you, Master. You are my Yoda. You know, when and great your comment, because I want to connect that history with the Chilean history, because it's a fascinating history also. I want to ask you, when did you come to Chile, and why, in which context, and if you can explain a little about our common research. It was my PhD research. I was very lucky to have you as one of my tutors, but I think the topic of the research also is very interesting to share with the audience.
Okay, I'll share with the audience that Macarena is a very experienced CPTED professional, and she has been leading the CPTED progress and expansion in the Latin American countries. Prior to that, it was really a North American, European, Australasian idea. We've recently had some new directors coming on, Manjari from India leading it, but Macarena was the key for Latin America. We met her at some of our conferences and she made contact with us. She was very keen on what is called second generation CPTED, which is the first generation CPTED, I would say, is perhaps the fiscal side. Second generation was where we involved the community in all those decisions making. We would say in Europe, we've been doing that from day one, but it's been named, labeled second generation CPTED. Macarena was taking that, leading that in certainly in most of Latin America and other parts of the world. But she wanted to take it a step forward and to form it into an actual model so that we can measure and evidence the impact that CPTED was making. And I was lucky enough to be asked if I could help her on that. And that's where we really came in to give it some academic credibility, to provide some of the evidence models that we could build our CPTED model around. So that's where we met up. We're all equal partners in this. And Macarena then engaged with one of the universities who grabbed the opportunity to have such a leading professional work with them, a partner with them. And she was very lucky to get her doctorate through that, and no doubt a professorship well earned to come, I hope.
I hope also.
Our experience, or my experience, certainly in Latin America and Central America, was we'd done various projects. We did crime audits ranging in Barbados. But we were certainly very interested, and we came over to Chile, to Santiago, to meet Macarena, because there was an interest in using CPTED in some of the municipalities, but also expanding it into public transport and that kind of thing. And we met with the public transport officials, we met with local mayors, all explaining the kind of concept of CPTED and the context, the Latin American context that Macarena was able to explain to them and make it clear that context is everything. So that's where we came. Since then, Macarena has managed to involve us in other projects. We were involved in Honduras, where it's a very successful conference. When we came over and were asked by the Honduran government to comment on CPTED and stadium design, football stadia, and that type of thing. And the Hondurans had a very successful CPTED conference there. I needn't mention the Mexico ICA, very successful conference that happened there. So again, and our role, our talk, for my talk there was extremism and CPTED. So we can see there's a whole history of successful interaction with Latin America.
Yeah, the bridge is very strong. I'm very happy because of that. And I think that your experience was very useful for the Chilean authorities also. Remember that past year, we had the social unrest problem. We had a huge problem with social unrest problems in our transport systems. And I remember you did a lecture online to the functionaries of the Home Office. And they were very happy with the lecture about safety in transport environments. Yeah,
and when we were actually in Santiago, we went on the public transport. I had a, so it was a hands-on experience from our behalf as well. So that made it even more special. We've done similar things in public transport across the world. We've done it in Qatar, I think it was, and other, obviously UK and in Chile now. And it's particularly interesting in some of the countries with women and public transport and CPTED and kind of areas that we think are worth developing.
Yeah, completely agree. Tim, and I want to shift you a little to your so relevant role in the ICA, because you are the leader of the Strategic Plan Committee. And I will explain a little to the audience what does this mean. 3 years ago, I became international president of the International CPTED Association, and the ICA started a renewal process, a completely renewal process. and you are the brain leading that committee of how to update everything, our management, our process, the contents. Can you explain a little the audience about that process and what are our pillars, our main ICA pillars?
Okay. The ICA has been very successful since, I think it's 1996, but we felt maybe 2 years ago now that we needed a review and to expand even further. So we decided to do that under Macarena's leadership. We needed a strategic plan and a business plan. And the difference really between the strategy and the business plan, the strategic plan is about our mission, our shared ethics, our beliefs, our targets, where we want to go. And the business plan is actually the how do you actually do that? What are the deliverables for that? So I was tasked with providing a framework for our strategic plan. It is a live document owned by the whole board, and our initial step was to go out, look at the demand, go and talk to old ICA members, new ICA members, practitioners, ensure there was still a great demand out there, and they were still very keen for what the ICA delivers. So we knew we had a demand there. So we put our strategy together, and we identified our ethics. We decided where we wanted to go to revamp. And we decided there needed to be 3 pillars to support our strategy going forward. First one was an umbrella structure, which means that ICA stands as the umbrella and brings all the regions in under that umbrella to shelter, to support, to nurture each of those regions so they form one, but a synergetic thing. So it's even bringing together, it's bigger than if they were separate. So we have an umbrella structure. That's one of those pillars. And we're reviewing those regions at the moment to build that pillar up. And how do you become a regional member? All those type of things are the business, the actions to make the first one of those pillars happen. The second pillar, which has been for a number of years, certification for ICA, has been led by people like Greg Seville, where ICA practitioners will be accredited by the ICA. So anybody who wants an ICA expert, they can get a practitioner, and they've got the confidence that they've performed the highest quality standards in the CPTED world. And so we're now hoping and expecting ICA members to want to be accredited. As an example, all the board members will be accredited. We're also going to have courses and programs accredited. So that's the second pillar. The quality of our what we do is out there to be seen, and is to a very high standard. And our third pillar is sharing our practice. We're not hoping, we are actually going to be delivering online training. We're forming the ICA Learning Centre, that core where you can go and share best practice. You can learn different parts of CPTED. You can learn particular skills within CPTED, communication skills, in addition to the standard CPTED approach. You can learn about the background, the history. All of that is going to be coming, and our first start of that will be as a international online training course that will be delivered both in English and Spanish, and that we hope is to be coming live in this autumn. So watch this space.
Yeah, completely. And can you refer in more detail the benefits of any persons to take an ICA online course?
The benefits, one, you will understand the CPTED practice, you'll understand the history, you'll understand the context. You'll actually get a qualification within CPTED. And depending on which region you come from the world, you'll have your course tailored to where you're coming from. So if you were coming from India, you would get Indian examples, how it goes into perhaps the Indian planning rules. If you were in Chile, you get a Chilean Latin American approach. Or underlying that is the foundations of CPTED and the CPTED School of Research, like situational crime prevention, but it's also tailored to the environment that you'll actually be operating in.
So very good news. Many things are coming in the future for our members, active members, or for all the planet.
Excellent. It's something we would have liked to have 10, 20 years ago, but you know, we didn't have that digital revolution type thing. So we're taking advantage of that. We're also taking positives out of things like COVID. Now people are used to working online, so we're going to go online and take advantage of all those things that are happening. We know with COVID coming, one of their solutions is to build. Again, if they're building to try and get out of economic declines, they need experts on that urban influence, which is where we come in.
Yeah, you're completely right, Tim. And as closing remarks, what do you want to highlight as a CPTED message for the audience?
I think the CPTED message is CPTED it's about designing and managing urban environments to reduce crime, fear of crime, but also to improve community. And if we do it right, we get a balance. We create an environment that people want to live, learn, play in, and not an environment when they withdraw behind their doors and create castles. We create live communities. And we have been on that trip. We've had first generation, second generation. We now have third generation CPTED, which is all about the inner person and how they react to their urban environments. So I think what I would say is CPTED is community and using the tools of the urban environment and how that influences behavior to make a better space, a better life, a better environment.
Thank you so much, Tim, for this brilliant message and brilliant presentation. And I hope to see you very soon.
I'm sure we will, and I look forward to it. And I look forward, hopefully, anybody who sees this and becomes a new member, it's been well worth it.
Great. So bye-bye, Tim.
Okay, bye-bye, and see you soon.